Welcome to our show. You're listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections, a place to learn about and celebrate creative arts therapy. Each week, we'll explore new ways that music, art, and dance can reach, connect with, and help individuals of all stages of health and wellness. Hi, I'm Bree, Beynon, a board-certified music therapist and the managing partner for the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. Tune in as I interview professionals from healthcare and educational backgrounds on the impact of the creative arts. If you prefer to watch our live video stream, simply visit www.pbmti.com. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Beynon, board-certified music therapist and certified neurologic music therapist, working here locally with the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute in South Florida. If you're joining us for the first time, we're really glad you found our show. Thanks so much. The next hour, we typically shine a light on creative arts therapies in our area and nationally and even internationally. And basically, we like to talk to professionals who have either worked in healthcare education fields and are looking for a kind of that creative edge, something a little outside of the box as a way to approach everyday issues that we might face in our healthcare system or our approach to education. We also talk to a lot of professionals who are outside of the creative arts therapies field, but have had connections with music, art, dance and movement therapists, play therapists, and what's the impact they see that having on their clients. We just came out of June, which was Brain and Alzheimer's Awareness Month. We did a lot of focus on what the impact of the creative arts have on both the well and impacted brain. We all understand the impact of music in our everyday lives, even if we aren't living with any kind of neurodegenerative disorder or have a loved one that does, because we use music in the car, to exercise, to unwind at the end of the day. So it's not usually a surprise, the idea of music being therapeutic, but we like to take it a little bit step further on this show. We're doing something different for the month of July. I just identify as myself a managing partner for PBMTI. I'm operating a business on like no formal business training. You know, we come out of school, we've got these grand ideas, we know how we want to work with our clients, and sometimes it's not always the best fit for us to work within an organization. You want to go out on your own, you want to start something new. For me, I got really lucky, and I was in a position where I teamed up with the founders of PBMTI, Catherine, who's been on the show a couple times before, who had already set up the business structure and was looking for someone to kind of help do the marketing and business development. So I recognize that I got very, very lucky in that position and didn't have to start from the ground up because, like I said, we don't have this formal business training. We don't typically receive or go out and pursue MBA degrees because we're in the field, busy doing what we went to school to do, to work with clients. So when we have this dream, and not just speaking for music therapists, but just that's in my little world, I'm sure it's represented in a lot of worlds, we have this dream of the impact we want to make and how we would want to structure a business and how we want to work with our clients and all that. We have no idea where to start or how to do it. So I just want to give, from my perspective, a couple things to be aware of, a couple things that I've found to be very positive, and certainly there's stumbles along the way. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. One of the biggest things, and if you listen to last week's show with Karen Turk, we started off kind of our business seminar series here for the month of July, focusing on social media presence and how to use social media as a way to establish and brand yourself in your community in a positive way. And so if you haven't checked that out, you can always view all of our archive shows at pbmti.com. We also repost them on our social media channels, so you can check out Facebook, Twitter as well for those. One of the things that Karen and I were talking about that is really, I think, important to me that doesn't get discussed enough is the importance of finding a mentor. You know, seeking out in your community who is already doing what you want to do and doing it well. Don't be intimidated or afraid to reach out to these people because odds are they started out like you a few years ago, and they probably looked up to people in their community as well, in their field as well. So more times than not, I would assume this person would want to help you out. So don't be afraid of that. I think oftentimes we see someone's success and we think they were magically born like that. And how could we achieve that? Well, they learned just like we have to learn. So don't be afraid to reach out to those that you have made an impact on you, that you're impressed by, and share that with them. I'm impressed by the things that you're doing, how you're doing it. How can you help me in the meantime? There's a lot of things that I think are really important. I talk about a lot on the show, getting involved in the community. We talked about with Karen the importance of having a social media presence and how helpful that can be, and how to choose the right channel for you, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Instagram, or what you notice is working in your market. But the importance of that face-to-face, that's not super comfortable for everyone. So that's something to be aware of for yourself if this is something that you're looking at. I did a presentation a few months ago on how to sell music therapy, making sales not the dirty S word, how to sell with sincerity and with confidence. And I had some people come up to me afterwards and say, I'm very introverted. I'm very quiet. I don't like to go out to networking events. It gives me great anxiety to make a phone call. But I want to do my own business. I want to have my own private practice. And honestly, this is my advice for that. I can't speak totally to that because it's not me. It's not my personality. But I certainly have lots of successful friends that are that way. And there are a lot of things that my friends can do that I can't do. Like be incredibly organized and stay focused and write things down and know exactly how to propose something. Whereas for me, that's kind of stressful, the idea of having it planned out and written down. I'm more of an in-the-moment type of person. I recognize that both of those things can be a strength. So what's helped for me is linking up with a friend in the field that shared the same vision and values as I had. And we just we lobby together. We go up to Tallahassee together and fight for our field. We set up events together. So I'm just going to call her out because she's been on the show several times. Elisa. So we take all of our trips to Tallahassee together. She came on the show a few weeks ago. We talked about the benefit we planned together. We'll be the first person to tell you that she identifies as a very introverted person. The two of us together get things done like I've never gotten things done before. And Catherine is another one. They have the same personality, in fact, and the two of us can get things done that I've not been able to get done by myself before because we have all those components. So finding people in your community who kind of, complete what you're out there to do, recognizing in yourself what your strengths are, what your challenges are, and who is really thriving in the areas that you're having issues with. Partner with those people and let that be a way to really make a full impact. So I guess in general, self-awareness is huge. Anyone can just come out of school and say, hey, that looks glamorous. And for us music therapists, private practice tends to be a little bit more of a financially stable situation in some cases than going to work for an organization because you get what you give. So if you're out there earning all the time, it can be more lucrative than a set salary working somewhere else. Also, we know how changeable that can be, certainly in private practice. We're going to talk about that throughout the next hour as well, how to kind of prepare for changes when you're in business for yourself. All that to say, that side can look glamorous. For a music therapist, glamorous. We don't get into this job for money, we know that. But it can look glamorous. How do you know it's right for you? How do you know that it's the right fit for you? Do you need to find a partner and share that experience with someone? Or do you know about yourself that maybe that's not the best path to go? No one really can tell you what that answer is. It's really about knowing your personality, your strengths, what's going to work in the long run, because there are long days, there are long nights, there are weekends. There's a lot of time you don't take vacation when everybody else around you is on vacation. Trust me, I know, and it's okay if you are committed and that's your long-term goal. But you have to know that about yourself because the payoff can be great in the end. But it is not for everyone. So that's kind of why I wanted to highlight this series this month. Again, I know this is not just applicable to music therapy or art therapy or any of the creative arts. In fact, my guest today, Amy Daniel, her background's in respiratory therapy. She doesn't have formal business training, and maybe we're going to find out exactly her background, but I'm assuming didn't come out the gate. No, I'm going to start a business, and I know all the tools off the top of my head, and here's what we're going to do. But here she is doing it and making a name for herself in the community. So I've asked Amy to come up with, similar to what we did last week, another top 10 list for you. So feel free, not if you're driving, but if you're home, to just jot down. We'll repost these on social media as well to help you follow along. But it's just an easy breakdown of starting a business. What are things to consider? There's a lot more than 10. These are the top 10 we're going to talk about today. But again, it's relative to the field, right? So take these ideas that we're giving you and think about how that applies to your line of work. And even if you are working already for a hospital, a school system, an organization, whatever it may be, there's still things that you can apply to bettering yourself. Maybe you want to move into a management position. There are a slew of things to consider when taking on that challenge and moving positions in that way. Be patient with yourself. Be gracious with yourself. All of these things are changes, and also give yourself a pat on the back because you're challenging yourself to do something that a lot of people might not do. And that's exciting, and it's scary, but it can be very, very, getting nods, it's scary at times, but it can be very, very exciting, and the payoff is great. So if I am speaking to you, if this sounds like something that resonates with you today, no matter what your field is, I hope you stick around for the next hour with us today. As always, we're going to put creative spins on things. We were creative people, so we want to hear from you as well. And what's worked for you, what has been some great successes for you in your small business or has been a challenge. So as always, please call into the show, 888-565-1470. We had a great conversation with a gentleman down in Pembroke Pines last week who called in, who declared his networking goal for everyone listening and watching proudly. And because of that, got some tickets to Dave Matthews Band. So, that was a little perk there too. But we love to hear these stories. We love to hear when people are inspired by positivity, inspired by people who are out there doing things, making changes. Like I said last week, these great, big, exciting things, they don't happen in your comfort zone. So we're going to give some top 10 tips on considerations if you are thinking about starting a small business or going private practice for yourself. So again, I'm going to be introducing to you our guest today, Amy Daniel. She is the owner of the local franchise of Bright Star Care here in Delray Beach. Stick around. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. When you come back, we're going to talk to Amy and hear her top 10 tips for you. Stick around.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer, Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Beynon, and I'm so excited to introduce my guest tonight, Amy Daniel. Thank you for being here, Amy.
Thank you for inviting me, Bree.
My pleasure. We were laughing in between because obviously you recognize that little message and jingle in
Absolutely.
between segments on the show. Bright Star is a wonderful sponsor that's been keeping our show afloat so we can deliver these messages every week that are just hopefully inspiring creativity and creative approaches. So thank you to you guys for your support. We really
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
We love working, as you know, with you and your organization. We just love all of you.
Oh, thank
Yeah.
you so much. We feel the same way. We're going to get into a little bit of the relationship that we've had with you all for 2 years now?
Just
Almost
about,
2
probably,
years?
yeah.
Wow. Time flies.
Sure does.
So if you wouldn't mind, just kind of start with your background. I know, like we said, you didn't necessarily start out in small business ownership. And how did you come to this place?
Absolutely. And it was, I don't know if I jumped in with 2 feet. Actually, when I did it 8+ years ago, I am a registered respiratory therapist. And I am married for almost 23 years to my husband, who is a registered nurse. So while we've always had that experience of working in hospitals with the patients that we service and working in our community, we never did it on a level quite as personal and patient-centered as we do in our home care business today.
And what did you just, was there a moment when you just thought this is the time to take this next step? What was the catalyst to that?
Well, my daughter, who's almost 21, when I was pregnant with her, I was sick and I needed home care. I got fed nutrition through a catheter that sat above my heart, giving me TPN and lipids. And so I had that connection to home care. After I finished with my treatment when she was about 6.5, when I was about 6.5 months pregnant, my husband went to work for the home care agency up in Staten Island, New York. And he always said it was the best job that he ever had. He loved it. And so all these years later, when we were thinking, how could we, make a name for ourselves, leave a legacy for our children? Because as you know, working in the hospital, doing shift work, while it's wonderful and you're saving people's lives on a daily basis, and you know that you have an impact on so many people's lives and families, it wasn't the way that me and my husband really saw ourselves down the road. And so we started doing some research to see, how could we go into small business for ourselves with all of our clinical background? We didn't have a degree in business, nor did we have any business experience at all, nothing. All we knew was shift work. We got a steady paycheck every other week from the hospitals that we worked at. But we knew that we were so good at the clinical aspect and, being in our fields. And we knew it was the only thing that we should and could segue into.
So again, kind of resonates with what I was saying earlier. We have this passion for the field that we choose, that we work in, that we've committed our lives to, going to school for, and making that transition is scary. Like we said before, it's exciting, but it's scary.
Very scary. And, even up until the day that I signed the papers, I kept saying, how do I know this is true? How do I know they're really, a real company that I'm not just throwing my money at? Because I had never gone through anything like that. But I had a girlfriend who said to me, if not now, when? There will always be 1,000 reasons why not to do something. There's never going to be the perfect opportunity. Just like when you have children, when you decide when is the right time, it may not ever be a truly right time. But I decided that if not now, when? And so we decided to just go for it.
So looking at the options of kind of starting something from the ground up or a franchise, what were your thoughts on that?
So while we had the clinical background and expertise, we didn't have the business experience. So we thought the best way for us to move forward was going with a franchise, because then they would have the tools to be able to, help us with some things that we didn't know. right? So while I had to spend a lot of nights, learning accounting systems, I had never done accounting before.
I
was,
hear you, my friend.
I failed fractions,
Yep.
That was definitely not my strong suit. So, I could turn to other owners because, we had that connection of all wanting to see each other be successful, because the more successful we are as individuals, the more success we have as a franchise system. So we decided, better for us to go with a franchise.
And I love that you pointed that out. And I think that's so true too. I mean, even like in our field of music therapy, I mean, we're so young and there's just more work available than we could ever fill. The stronger we are as a field, as a community, building each other up, or that we are in a private practice, that just elevates the whole field. So another reason to reach out and help each other.
I agree with that. And, also to add, what you're saying, to decide to move into going into a private practice for you, well, that's great. You're great at music therapy. How wonderful it would be if you can link up with somebody with the business experience who could make sure the bills are paid and that they can make sure that payroll is being, run for your other music therapists while you're out building your brand and building your business, doing what really makes you whole and connected.
And I think that's a challenge, too, that a lot of people face, especially in our field that is young, mostly women, a lot of young moms that have this dream, and yet we don't realize all that goes into it. And we want to be out there with the clients face to face, and there's so much else that prohibits us from really living that dream of making music with others.
Right.
So I think there's a lot of value in partnering with someone who can be your support on that and not worry about tackling it all by yourself. And hey, I'll be the first to admit that's hard. I want to believe I can do everything by myself, and I think that I've personally seen a lot more success when I do let others help
you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I could tell you that, when we decided to do this, my kids were at an age where they couldn't be left alone, right? So if a client called and I had to go running, I either had to find someone to watch my kids or they tagged along.
Sure.
My clients and my children knew each other. I don't want to say intimately, but they knew each other when we first started, out as a business because, we did everything in the business when we were so new. Now I have a great group of people, that I rely on to, really run the day-to-day aspects of my business. But in the beginning, it was literally me and my husband.
Yeah.
And of course, our wonderful caregivers that we had out caring for our, fabulous clients.
For sure. And I mean, I totally identify on a much smaller scale, but, my mom owned a home care business, and I spent every day in the summer with her and her clients until I was old enough to work for her, and then I worked in the homes. So it's kind of becomes like a family experience, and you keep those boundaries. Certainly, you've got to keep those boundaries, but you also have to admit the business becomes part of the family.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, and before that, I grew up in my grandparents' furniture store, so I mean, it's just you know that. I think that too. If that's in your blood and that's in your family, that's not such a strange thing to think about.
Right. And, another great part of doing what I do is, we're taking care of the most vulnerable people, right? We're taking care of people who can't necessarily take care of themselves, and it's hard for them to transition and feel that they can ask for help. So, we want to reach out to them and tell them that they can rely on them like we are their family. Yeah. So we really do become like an extended family.
For sure. That makes sense. So once you made the decision to that the franchise model was the best one, why Bright Star?
That's actually the easiest question to answer for me because not a lot of home health agencies locally provide more than personal care, right? Assistance with bathing and dressing and ambulating and, making meals and taking people for on errands and shopping and to doctor's appointments. But because me and my husband were so clinically, robust, right? We wanted to we wanted to capture that. And so my husband was like, if we're going to do this, we have to be able to offer skilled services. So, a big part of what we do is skilled care, which a lot of local home health agencies don't provide. They just do the personal care, which is great. Nothing against that. But we do a lot of high-tech skilled infusion therapy. My husband is a certified registered nurse infusionist. He's got over 25 years experience as a trauma nurse. So he's very highly trained and skilled as a nurse. So that was something he wanted to make sure that we can offer.
That's great. So, and there's something I'm sure with each franchise too, with having the specialties that you guys have. We talked to Nick a couple months ago, another one of the Bright Star owners that we partner with, and he has a different set of strengths that you have that, Jack has and other owners in the area, and you all support each other as well within that community, which is so exciting.
Which is the best part about being a Bright Star owner, right? We're all locally, independently owned and operated, but there's so many of us, and we can lean upon the others for a little bit of extra support that maybe we don't have the experience in. So like Jack, the owner in Jupiter, has, he ran a business, a very successful business for 27 plus years. So he had all the business experience, but knew nothing about nursing. So we were able to really take them under our wings, so to speak, and kind of guide them along a little bit with what we knew, and help them when they first, opened up. And we were happy and proud to be able to do that.
It was really neat when I started to form this partnership we're going to talk about in a minute. Was like the same time that Nick came on. So I kind of got to see that whole process of him starting, buying the franchise. I think it was even before it was even open that we were starting these conversations. And to really see how both you and Jack took him, under your wing and also learn from him as well and what he was bringing to the table. And I have to say, I that was really cool for me to see, how you guys all work together to support each other. And I think that's so valuable. We're not in this alone.
Right. And remember what I said, we're stronger as, a group,
for sure.
Right? The more successful we are as individuals, the more successful we are as a system.
Right.
So,
I don't think you can say that enough. I mean, that's such a huge point to hammer home. Absolutely.
Right. It's strength in numbers. Right?
Yep.
So.
Yeah, definitely. And especially in this community where we live, I'm sure that it's similar other places around the country, but here in South Florida, I mean, again, we're never going to be able to service every need that's here, So we need to be as strong as possible to reach out to, like these vulnerable communities. It's not just seniors, but also those who are here because the weather is better for their health, no matter what the age is, or because they have services they can receive here they can't receive in another part of the country. We have a lot of clients in this area who need this compassion-centered care.
Absolutely, and patient-centered care.
Yeah.
And, I usually tend to think the more people need care, or the more care that's needed, the less resources they have to provide that care to themselves. So we're in a position, I'm very, very friendly with a lot of my competitors. And I wouldn't think twice if I'm unable to service somebody to point them into into a direction of a competitor of mine to say, please help out this person who's, really in need of care. We just aren't able to provide that for them.
Sure. So we've been talking broadly about just what inspired you to go into starting your own business with your husband and that process. But I know you've prepared a list for us of the top 10 things you're really thinking about, things to consider. So we're going to take another quick commercial break. When we come back, you don't want to miss this, the top 10 considerations for starting your own business. Stick around.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. We're focusing this month in July on our top 10s of business. So we did a segment last week on top 10 ways to best market and brand yourself using social media, networking, social media channels. And today I'm with my guest, Amy Daniel. Thank you again so much for being here,
Absolutely.
Amy. Owner of Bright Star Care of Delray Beach. She is here to talk about her experience, reflect back on her experience, and as she's going through the business now 8 years in and still learning as we all are, but the things that she wants to share with anyone who might be considering for the first time taking this leap of starting your own business or private practice. So I'm just going to let you get right into it, Amy, and start at the top of your list.
Absolutely. So when I thought about my 10 questions to ask myself really about when would I know it's right and what I would want to do and how do I make those decisions, my number one question was, why are you starting a business? And are you in it for the right reasons? Right? And then the second one, which would be the next question, is what kind of business are you interested in? And what demographic would you like to serve? Right? So if you love baking, you know, you obviously would think, you know, let's open a cupcake and cookie store, right?
And are you in an area where that would be as successful? I think that's something to look at.
It's huge.
If you are not so comfortable with the idea of moving and seeking out that demographic, that's a consideration, I think.
Absolutely.
So definitely a good question to ask.
Yeah. Are you prepared to put the time and money into it to get it up and get it started? You know, I reflect back to my days of when I was brand new and just getting our business off the ground, and I would leave for the office, you know, by 6 a.m. in the morning and not get home until 9 at night. And I'd call my kids on the way home and I'd ask my daughter, did you make something for dinner for yourself? You know, that's real.
Yeah.
It's real.
And, you know, like we alluded to earlier, being aware of that and recognizing your own limitations if that's not going to work.
Right. And knowing, you know, obviously your life and your business, you know, your time management skills, and it needs to be a balance. Does it work? But also, do you have the stamina? You know, if you have health issues, maybe it's not the right opportunity, you know, to do that.
But there are other things that maybe you can do and can be a support.
100%.
And how can you, again, seek out someone in your field or in you know, the business end of things or wherever it is that you need the support and grow from there.
Exactly. Right. Take on a partner perhaps so that you're not doing it all on your own.
Which is how I found myself employed.
which is
Amazing.
Perfect.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
Which is perfect. Next is how much money will you need to get it started? You know, you walked into a business that was already formed. How lucky for you. You get to do what you do every day and you love doing it. But financially, the liability wasn't on you. So, you know, it's a win-win.
Yep.
Right? Do you have liquid cash or will you need to go get a loan or a line of credit? So you need to look at those things.
Now, from start, and I'm sure you looked at both these options. So for someone who's listening, who's going through the same thing, maybe if you could just elaborate on that a little bit. When looking at starting something from the beginning or buying into a franchise, what do those two options look like financially?
Well, I'd have to say to get into a franchise, it costs more money because you have the franchise expenses. You know, you have to buy your territory, which if you were opening up your own business, you wouldn't necessarily have to You wouldn't have to buy into anything. You'd have to pay rent and open up your office and go get licensed. And then you also wouldn't be burdened with royalties, perhaps. But you have to look on the other side of the coin. Do you know how to go pick out a software that you could use? Do you know how to use QuickBooks? Do you know how to process your own payroll? Those kinds of things. If you're going to be a one-person show, then those are things you don't necessarily have to think about. But if you want to build your business and grow it into something that you can really, make a name for yourself, those are all things you're going to have to think about. And if you can't go out and find all those things on your own, it's going to cost more to have that handed to you.
Absolutely. You pay for the convenience of it.
Right.
What would you say were some of those kind of surprise expenditures that you weren't necessarily expecting when starting a new business?
Oh, the easiest thing for me, I can tell you, is I thought that we'd open our doors and the clients would just walk through them.
Yeah.
And it took a couple of months before we could see some real business coming in. And, I still paid the rent and I still paid salaries and I still paid certain expenses every month while I wasn't getting money coming in from sales. So and again, because I didn't have business experience and I never operated a business, I just kind of assumed it would come.
Yeah. Yep.
How silly of me.
Well, I think it's so important to talk about, okay, do you have enough money to start a business? Okay, like you said, you think of to rent the place. In my field, do you have the instruments, or do you have a documentation tool? Okay, I've got a printer and I've got ink, like even basics like that. You think about that stuff. But when you think about the time and the efforts and the materials that need to go into marketing,
right?
And a lot of times you have to spend time in the community doing, where I know that I've done, complimentary demos and presentations and going to meetings and all these things that I was not seeing any return on at the time. Boy, did it pay off later.
Right.
But it's hard. When I made the shift in my position from being in the field 20 to 40 hours a week to really being in the field like 3 to 4 hours a week, and the rest of the time was committed to growing the business, it's difficult in the beginning. I mean, if you're used to seeing patients constantly, and then all of a sudden it's your job to make sure that you can hire a team of people to see patients, it's a big shift in energy.
Right. And so that's an important concept, because while you are great at selling it because you're so passionate about it, your true passion is being with the clients that you service.
It's tough.
So it has to be a happy medium, right? I say even now, 8 years later, I wish I didn't have to be behind my desk at all.
Right.
I wish I could be out in the community with my clients all day long. What should take me, a half hour, 45 minutes turns into 2 hours because we get that connection, we form a bond. We just start talking about family or different things that we have a connection to. And I just, it's like a therapy session for me. I usually leave saying that was a wonderful therapy session. But it's great to have that time in the field. So you don't want to walk away from that completely, right? Because that's what your true passion is.
And just to stay, I don't know if we're getting on a tangent here, but just to stay on that point, because I think it's important personally, and again, can't speak for everyone, just my personal experience, I don't ever want to not be in the field.
Of course.
Because there are a lot of managers that aren't in the field at all. And I think that it's very easy to lose touch with the travel, especially if you live in a place like we do and you expect people to be all these places, and then you try it yourself and how difficult it is, and how difficult it is in February versus how difficult it is in July, and what the difference is, what that is like to expend all that energy in a group setting or an individual or with a family. I think it just makes you more sensitive in your management role and more understanding when these things happen.
100%. And I want to say, we have some caregivers that are with us, that have been working with us and for us since the day we opened our doors. And I always remember, a couple of caregivers saying to me specifically, that they knew that we understood them because we're shift
difference.
workers and because, we work with our hands and we work, doing what they do. We understand what they do. And they had such a different respect for us and feeling towards us as owners than as if they were working for someone else because they knew that we weren't just telling them to do something that we wouldn't go and do ourselves. There were times that I would, as a licensed clinician, I would, if I was needed, I would go out and help. And there were some times where I would literally take off my shoes, get on my knees on the bed and help a caregiver turn a patient. What other owner of a business would do that, right? So if you have a music therapist, that says, I don't know how I feel about this group of people.
Sure.
Can you come out and spend some time observing and giving me some input to see how I'm doing or if I can change? Don't you think there would be that different connection?
Makes a huge difference, sure.
Rather than just an accountant who's doing the books who doesn't know.
Yep, absolutely. I
So.
agree. I can't remember exactly who this came from. Unfortunately, I can't credit them. But I remember being one of our networking groups and someone was speaking saying, people like to say that your first priority when you own your business should be your clients, right? And not that they're not, but it really should be your employees because your employees are the ones that are going out to your clients. It doesn't go from here to here. There's all of this in the middle that if they feel valued, if they are valued, not just feel, they are valued and respected and appreciated, that's what's going to show that compassion and that care to our patients, our clients, their family members.
Right, because the better they feel about themselves, it's going to show in their everyday work, right?
Yeah.
So we have to let them know that we appreciate them and we thank them. Sometimes we'll just send them a text, out of the blue. Thank you so much for all you do for us each and every day.
Yeah. That's a whole nother level, right? That's not even just the startup and the financial part of it, which is how we got started on this, but also putting those might not be paid hours for you as a business owner.
Absolutely.
That you're putting that energy and that empathy and that compassion into your staff, but it's going to pay off.
Absolutely.
In a big way.
And then also think about how important retention is so that you're not
Sure.
constantly hiring and retraining and having to fill gaps because people are walking away.
Right.
So that's important too.
That's huge. Okay, I got you off your list. I'm sorry. Next one.
All right. So what's my next one? Who and what is your local competition? Big question, right? So
Especially in your business.
yeah, I mean, obviously we all know there's 300 home health agencies in the area. And again, there's enough business for everybody in the area. I really do value my competitors because I can't possibly take on all these clients by myself. And there is a place for all of us.
And we come together too. I mean, again, I'm not in home care necessarily, but being in the same community-based groups, which we'll talk about later, as you are, we know that makes up a huge part of our community is home care agencies.
Right.
So
they need all of us.
we need to work together for right, exactly.
Right.
For multiple reasons.
Right.
So that's great.
My next one is: have you shopped your local market to see how you will set up your client pricing and employee pay rates? If you price yourself out of the market, you could find yourself, with little to nothing very soon. You have to, really have a strategy.
Yeah, sure.
What are your long-term plans and goals? Do you have an exit strategy set up? Are you 60 years old and just getting into this? Or are you, 30 years old and, new
I've
to the
got
market?
1 month left, Amy.
Well,
I just want
right.
to point that out again.
It's almost my birthday, too. So, do you plan on working in the business? Or do you plan on just being, the face behind just signing the checks?
Yeah.
Everybody's got to know what their strengths and their weaknesses are and how they can best be utilized in the business.
We're going to kind of come back to this after our break to just break down a little bit more into the specifics, but that's huge when you're thinking about at this end of it. Okay, say you are 29 and 11 months in this position, holding on to it, okay?
Right.
And you're not thinking about when you're 65 and what you just
Absolutely.
wouldn't naturally think that way. You're so
Right.
excited about this, the beginning, the
future.
birth of it.
Absolutely.
So I think that's really smart to think of that long-term plan and where are we going with this? Do you want to have children of your own during this process, or are you going to move? Are you committed to this geographical area? There's so much to consider. So we're going to break down a little bit more, and then also I love that you have this ask yourself, section coming up of things. Again, this self-awareness of what our own strengths and limitations are is really going to set us up for success. As always, we've got one more segment to go. If you've got successes or challenges that you want to share, please call into the show, 888-565-1470. We're going to have one more commercial break, and we're going to finish up our conversation on a top 10 tips for considering starting a business. Stick around.
Mom's fall was a wake-up call. We knew she needed help, but we also knew she'd never leave her home.
With jobs and kids, we can't always be there. We weren't sure who to trust to help around the house and make sure she takes her medications.
We did our research and found our answer. Bright Star Care. Their home care teams are led by registered nurses with help available 24/7.
Thanks to Bright Star Care, Mom can stay where she wants to be, at home.
For a standard of care that raises the bar, call 844 for Bright Star.
The Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute is a professional music therapy practice serving medical, community, and educational settings throughout Southeast Florida. With our experienced team of 11 board-certified music therapists, we use music and research-based therapeutic interventions to help individuals of all ages and abilities reach their goals and increase their quality of life. For more information on our services and programs, please visit our website at pbmti.com. Engage with us on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, or call us at 561-747-9944. You are listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. If you'd like to join the conversation, the toll-free number is 888-565-1470. Now back to the show. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're listening to and watching Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. I'm your host, Bree Beynon, board-certified music therapist with the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute. And I've got the honor of talking to Amy Daniel tonight from Bright Star Care Delray Beach, a great friend to PBMTI, as well as a sponsor of this show, as well as sponsors of music therapy programs out in the community, which we've been so thankful for this partnership over the last few years. We've been in between the three offices, I don't even know, probably 10 or more different facilities, hospitals, community programs, completely a service that you guys have offered as a way to connect and give back to the community. And I just want to brag on it for a moment because we love our community partners. We're able to do so many things that we couldn't do otherwise because of them and because of their support. And I love when someone, and it was Jack, came up with this idea of like, hey, we spend so much money in marketing, and doing a lunch and learn or doing a presentation or putting up flyers. Maybe this is a new way of getting out into the community, of giving back and getting Bright Star's name out there too, and also PBMTI's name, but also
doing good for the community.
Tracking actual therapeutic goals for these individuals who were not receiving music therapy before. And we've had programs, last from anywhere from 3 months to they're still ongoing from the beginning, a year or ongoings, which is awesome. So thank you guys for that and for all your support. It makes a world of difference and it means a lot to us.
Well, makes a world of difference to us too. So it's a pleasure, it's an honor to be able to provide that kind of therapeutic delivery to the people that we service. Obviously, I'm very connected to the Alzheimer's community. I lost a grandfather and an aunt to Alzheimer's. I'm also, as you know, we work together with the Alzheimer's Association. I was chair of the walk last year, and this year we're getting ready to gear up for our walk at City Place on October 8th. We'd love to have you join us.
Please do. als.org/walk. Wherever you're listening from, look up a walk in your area. This is just our walk here at West Palm, but they are all over the country and just a lot of fun, exciting stuff going on right now.
Absolutely. But to see the difference that it makes to these individuals while in the music therapy session, it is just so overwhelming. I mean, it works.
And I love that you, all three of the owners here in Palm Beach County that we work with, you take the time when you can to be a part of the session and to see that. And it's so fun for us, too, to see you guys, singing, playing the instruments, interacting. And we get to see the staff do it, too. The caregivers and family members and the staff at the facility, even like administrators will come in. And music is the one thing that kind of equalizes us all. It brings us together. So just another way that you guys show your support, which we really appreciate.
Right. And, even for us without those memory issues or cognitive impairment, neurological deficits, it brings back a memory for us too. How many times have we been in session together and I'm like, oh my God, I used to love that song.
Yeah. Yep.
My mother used to sing that song to me, thinking back of that memory.
For sure.
Yeah.
We don't have to have necessarily an affected brain for us to be. And at the end of the day, I know some people don't like to focus on this, but hey, it's our way in. It's fun.
It is.
It's fun. We have fun.
It is.
It's not the most scientific word in the world, but we have fun.
Absolutely.
So I know that we're going to wrap up today with, you've got some really cool things of, this focusing on the self-awareness going into this, not just jumping in because the money or whatever looks good. You really have to know where you're at and what you can give to this business and if it's a right fit. So what were some questions you could ask yourself?
So for me, when I was sitting down and thinking about what we wanted to talk about tonight, really important to me, to ask yourself how important to you is community involvement and giving back to the community that you service. Are you just going into this to think of a way that you can, make money and turn a profit and own a business? Or are you looking at how you can involve yourself on a different level with the community that you service? So for me, that's been a key part of what I do. And what is your true passion? And can your job, right, and your passion be one?
That's huge.
It's huge because isn't the saying, if you love what you do, you never work a day in your life,
exactly.
right? So
I agree with that. I mean, not that it's not hard work, but that's one of the things I would hear working in hospice care for years at the end of people's lives. When they're looking back on 90 years of their lives, if they didn't love what they did for work, it was a big consideration when looking back on things. And those who loved what they did, they remembered that. Right. And they said, well, that allowed me I had fun, and then I had the money to go on vacation, enjoy my family. If that's not the case, you got to really look. You got to look at how you're spending. You're spending more time at work than you are at home. Right. You got to love what you do.
Right. You have to wake up every morning with that renewed passion.
For sure.
Ready to go and conquer another day and be great at what you do. Yep. Right. Yep. Because people could tell if you don't enjoy what you're doing.
Absolutely.
I used to have clients that I would meet with and they would say to me, I can tell that you're doing exactly what you were meant to do.
It's the best compliment you can get. I love that.
For a stranger to say that to me, I felt like I was exactly where I needed to be.
Yeah.
That made a big difference, especially after working 16-hour days and being almost miserable and in tears. Because, when you own a business, right, when you think that there could be nothing worse that could happen, the next thing comes right behind you and knocks you on your tush, right, knocks you off your feet. So for clients to say that to me made a huge impact on my life.
Yeah, for sure. It's like I said, I think it's the best compliment that you can get, honestly, in this field is when people can tell your passion, that you love what you do just from interacting with you. I love that. You were meant to be in this job.
Exactly.
That's huge. And I think people can tell the other side of that as well, and, we were talking about Karen and I last week of when you're thinking about a big investment, buying a car, buying a handbag or shoes, which you or I would probably more likely be going to do. Right. That's a big deal. And you think about the salesperson were they sincere? Were they genuine? Or were they just trying to sell you something and get off their shift? We have to think about, we are selling services. We're selling, home care. We're selling music therapy. We're selling these. people will know if you're doing it with sincerity.
Absolutely. We're selling the most intimate service
Yeah.
that anybody could ever do, to providing home care, right? Personal care. Can't get any more intimate than that.
Oh, for sure.
And so, you need to really want to be there. You need to be willing to answer the phone at 11 o'clock at night if there's an emergency, or on
Yep.
a Saturday morning, at 9 o'clock, when you're heading out to the beach.
Yep.
Maybe not,
Yep.
but you need to have your clients know that, they can rely on you.
Yep.
And that's what it's all about, because it's making their lives better.
There's a lot of sacrifice.
A
There
lot of
is.
sacrifice.
It's not all glamorous, but if that is, again, knowing about yourself that that's something, a challenge you are prepared for and willing to wait for the payoff of that, I mean, that's wonderful. Then you know it's a fit.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't have to be for everyone.
Right. And it won't be for everybody.
It won't be for everyone, and that's okay.
And that is okay.
Absolutely. I hope this conversation has been helpful to those listening and watching tonight. If this is something you're thinking about, in our last minute, Amy, how can people get in touch with you if they have questions about Bright Star, your chapter, or your business in Delray Beach, franchise in general, or if they are interested in your services?
Absolutely. I appreciate that. Our local telephone number is 561-921-0550. They can, of course, call the office. They can also, listeners out there, you can also find us online. So Bright Star Care, Delray Beach. Nice and easy, right?
Easy to find.
Absolutely. And we have a lot of resources on our website as well.
Yeah, you guys have a great blog that you all keep, updated with relevant things. You've talked about music therapy on the blog, different resources for caregivers. So that's a great.
We do. And we also
option.
have a little addition, 3.7-pound Morkie that we're training, our little pet
Why
therapy
didn't I ask
puppy
Cooper
and
to come
training.
on the show? Okay, you have to come back.
I know, I will. But our little Morkie, pet therapy puppy in training is what I hashtag it, Cooper. And we're training him. And we hope that within the next 3 months, he'll be able to go out to visit clients and make a difference even more with impacting, especially
We should have
our
started with
dementia.
that. He's the best marketing tool.
He's the best puppy in the whole
That's
world.
the 11th
There's
tip.
nobody.
Get yourself a
Right.
therapy dog. Thank you so much, Amy, for coming on tonight. I learned a lot. I hope you all did at home as well. I hope to see you on the show again. It was a lot of fun
Absolutely.
chatting with you. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening. We'll see you next week. Have a great one. Thank you for listening to Palm Beach Music Therapy Connections. We hope you enjoyed today's program and discovered new ways to bring music, art, and dance into your home or workplace. Please find a copy of today's show at pbmti.com. If you have any questions for our guest or myself, please email me at Bree, that's BREE, at pbmti.com, or call the Palm Beach Music Therapy Institute at 561-747-9944. Tune back in next week for an all-new live show. See you then.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored